Hello everybody, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Heffy Doodle video. Today we are going to be making a slimline card with some great products. Let's talk about those products. This is the Dear to Me stamps along with the matching dies. And then I have this. This is the Tree-mendous Peekaboo tree dies. I'm going to just use the leaves on this, but it is a fabulous die set. We're also going to be using the Slimline envelope number 10 die. Yes, we are making our own envelope. And then I have the Grassy last border die. I do bring in some other dies, but this is what we're using for now. So I've got some Heffy Doodle alcohol marker friendly cardstock. I've put all of my images into my Misty, and I'm going to bring in some Maker Forte Eclipse black ink. We'll stamp that down, and then I'm going to flip that and stamp it again because why not? You know, if you've got the extra room, let's stamp up a bunch of images, and that way if we have leftovers, you can make another card. I love that. I mean, we already are going to have our markers out, right? So let's get into our coloring. I'm going to put all the colors up on the screen, and I'm trying to make this look like a fall scene, but these are non-traditional colors that I'm going to be using. Mostly the colors that I use for these animals and such will be traditional, but the colors that I choose for my background are going to be a little bit more non-traditional fall type colors, I think anyway. So here are our colors for our birch tree and our stump. I did the same thing. And then for our deer, I didn't grab traditional browns. I'm grabbing some Ys. So this one is the Y32. Then we'll bring in the YR23. And then I'll blend that out with that Y32 again. I typically go lightest to darkest when I'm coloring with my alcohol markers, but you do you. I know that most seasoned professionals, as we like to call them, they tend to go dark to light, but I'm just sticking with what I know, which is the light to dark. It works really well for me. So now we're going to take that same YR23 and use that for the base of our deer bodies. And then I'm going to come in with a YR27. I know we're going with it's like oranges, but it ends up really working. And so we'll put our shadowing and shading where I think it's going to look good. And I'll only show you the coloring of this one deer because it's basically the same process. I use a lot of flicking motions, and then I come back in and blend back out with that YR23. But I love how this looks. It doesn't really look orangey on these little deer. I think they're fantastic. So there they are. We'll bring in some, this is RV63 for the tops of our mushrooms and our ears on our deer. And then we have V05 for our darker shade. This is what I'm talking about by non-traditional. You know, you don't necessarily see pink and purple out in fall colors or necessarily even out in the wild, but hey, we're having fun here building our little scene. And then for our mouse, we've got E43, and then we'll come in with some E44. And I'll do the same thing for all the other images on the other side. And then this is where we're going to bring in our matching dies in a second. I do bring in a white gel pen just to add back those highlights, and then I just put a few of those little dots on our deer over here. And then we put some on our mushrooms as well, which you can't see as well, but they are definitely there. So here we'll bring in our matching dies, and I'll tack that down with a little bit of mint tape. And then I've got these trimmed down so they are ready to go through our Heffy Doodle mini die cutting machine, which, as you all know, if you watch me at all, I adore this machine. This is actually like the second set of plates I've gone through, and I think I have to replace these. I use it all the time. So run that through the die cutting machine. You can see I've gathered all my little images up at the top. And then we are going to do some more die cutting, but this will take a bigger die cutting machine. So I've pulled out the Grassy last border die, and then I have this over some like a green cardstock, and I'm just going to go all the way up this whole piece using these dies, and then I'll start over again and cut them out again. And then this panel measures 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. So this is my typical slimline that I would use, and so I just kind of kept going with that until I had all of those on top. And now I'm bringing in some peeled paint distress ink, and I'm trying to add the shadowing like it looks like this is going uphill. So the grass in the forefront, it's highlighted, and so it looks like what's behind would be a hill. And so it looks like eventually the scene will look like you are descending down that hill from the top to the bottom. And so yeah, that's where I'm going with my shadowing, just bringing it in at the bottom, testing out where I think it would go. And then I'm not concerned about like splotches of ink on there. I'm just wanting to get some of that color down. I can cover up some of that with the scene I'm going to be building, so I'm not worried about it. And then just gluing that as we go up the top. Now I'm going to bring in this die. I didn't show this in the beginning. This is the Stitched Slimline Trio die. So I'm going to take this and run this through my die cutting machine, and then we're going to have this beautiful stitched border all around the edge. And this will measure 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. It's perfect. And now it's time to do our scene building. So I'll bring in the birch trees, and I want those to look like they are coming off the top. I love doing this with my scenes, making it look like there is more going on beyond the card. So to look at this, it's going to look like the birch trees are going up and beyond. I love that. And also that they're going, you know, right and left beyond as well. And we're climbing up that hill with these birch trees. I couldn't go much further down because then the birch top would have shown. But this is how you can make things like this work for Slimline as well. And I'm not worried about the grass completely covering it because we have all those leaves. Do you see all those die cut leaves up there? Yes, I die cut all of those using that Tree-mendous Peekaboo die, tree die. And so now we'll just start placing our pieces where we think they're going to look good. And then eventually we can start tacking everything down with a little bit of liquid glue. You could use foam tape if you wanted. I wanted this to be a little bit lower profile than that. So I'm just going to stick with the liquid glue. And I love the little deer. And I love this little scene. It's so fun. We've got our little mouse sitting on top of the tree stump with the mushroom right next to it. And then we've got all the rest of our little pieces also. So we'll finish tacking all of that down. So happy with how that's coming along, because if there's one thing I enjoy, it is scene building. It is so much fun to do, and the Heffy Doodle images make it really easy to do. Always all the little accents and bits that you don't think about. And I am going to use Copics on each of these leaves. Yes, tedious, but it does add a whole level of depth to them. And then now I'll stamp out and cut down my sentiment and put that at the top. And now we can just start using this tool to tack down each of our leaves. I mean, this is like embellishments without the profile of an embellishment typically that it would bring. I'm just tacking all of these leaves down using that liquid glue and making it look like the leaves are falling. And so now you see what I mean by non-traditional colors. We do have the yellow, and typically it might be like red or orange, but I decided to use that purple color and I love it. Our card base measures 7 inches by 8.5 inches. We're scoring that at 3.5 inches. And I think we're going to have to do something on the inside, because if you know me, I definitely like to do that. So we will use our liquid glue to tack down our little deer on each side and the lower corners. We are going to end up having 2 pieces left over. We're going to have that little deer that's sitting down and the mouse. We can save those for a whole nother card. But, you know, I actually used almost everything I die cut and colored. And then we'll add all those leaves and we'll use them all up, but I love it. So we'll have plenty of room to write to our recipient. And now we can tack down our panel to our card base using that same liquid glue. And I can't stop there. Obviously, I'm going to be making an envelope, but I do need to do a little splatter. So I need some sparkle. I'm bringing in the Gonzai Tombi Starry Sky. Just going to spritz a little water in there, activate that paint, and then splatter that all over our background. So it's not like in your face, but as you look at it, you'll definitely see it shining it in the light. Here are our pieces for our envelope. I cut this out of some Tonic Falling Glitter specialty paper, and we needed one of the base, 2 of those side pieces, 1 of the bottom, and then there are 2 top pieces to choose from. I chose this one. And now we can start adhering those together with our liquid glue. I highly suggest, if you're making your own envelopes, that you use a very strong adhesive. You don't want, after you've put all this effort in, for your envelope to fall apart and for your card to go missing. Because that has happened to me. Yes, it has. It's a sad day. The recipient got an envelope, never got a card. Anyway, so now we'll just keep tacking down our pieces. I go sides first, tack those down, and this glue just takes a few seconds to dry, not very long. But when you are using specialty paper like this, it's not a cardstock, it's more of a paper. You do need to have a little more care and a little more time. And then when I send these through the mail, when I'm using this type of paper, I actually use a clear envelope to go over the top of it. And that will keep it so that way I can write on a label, stick that down, and then it just goes through the mail just fine. You may need to add a little more postage if you do that, but hey, if you're taking the time to send something this fun, what's another stamp, right? And your recipient will love it. All right, so we've tacked down the top now. Now we will do our closing our sides together. The sides go first. And I'll put a little glue on this side, the very edge, a little glue on this side at the very edge, and then we'll bring it together. While that's drying, I can glue the bottom. Don't glue the top yet. That's very, very last, right? All right, so now let's take a look at our envelope all done and our card. Check out that splatter on there. It's beautiful. And we have this fun fall scene with non-traditional colors, and it fits in our beautiful envelope so easily. Check that out. Yes. So if you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Big thanks to all of you who use my affiliate links and watch my videos. You guys are awesome. And I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.